What's up guys, it's your boy Nathaniel Messiah, and today I have got a bit of a different video for you, and the reason for that is I've got a big announcement, and that is that I have started my own clothing brand that you see before you. Saya says so, man. We're in the building. And yeah, the reason why we're doing this is because I feel like I have a lot of things that I wanted to get across to you guys, and I just felt like this was going to be the best way to do it. So I've got my boy TJ in the building. And you guys will get to know why I decided to bring him in on this. But in terms of just a straight introduction, what you guys are going to be wondering, all right? This is my brand. It is not a fitness brand. It is more so on the streetwear lifestyle kind of lane. And through this conversation, you will understand why I decided to do this instead of going for the more traditional route of what my audience will probably, have expected from me. But I hope that within this conversation, it can kind of contextualize that and make the brand, the name, the logo, the direction, everything we plan to do make more sense for you guys, so that you guys can be a part of this journey and understand what it is you're actually becoming a part of. And for that reason, we got my boy TJ here, and I feel like I could introduce you, but I feel like it's a thing where I feel like you should just kind of tell the viewers like who you are and why I brought you in on this. Because yeah, we're boys, but I feel like I don't think I could have picked a better person to do this with. So let these guys know like who you are and what you're about.
Come on, man, you're blessing me. But yeah, man, I'm glad to be here. TJ is my name, TJ Saw. I'm a storyteller, but primarily, and so that may well be through visual means, oftentimes as a director or as an image maker. And also as a sort of fashion and culture journalist as well. So conversationalism is my trade, storytelling by visual and verbal means. And just
to cut you, the viewers that might not have known your portfolio, if you were just to rattle off a couple of the names of the people that you are known for having worked with, who are these guys that we're talking about? What scale are we talking about here?
I mean, we're talking Nathaniel Messiah.
Allow it, man.
We're talking that. I mean, well, look, that's the newest name on the resume, which I'm glad for. But yeah, man, we've had a good time of it of late. Have been fortunate enough to kind of sit at this distance in conversation with the likes of A$AP Rocky, with the Skeptors of this world, Doechii, Andre 3000. So yeah, been fortunate to chop it with some of my goats. You know what I mean? And I think the common theme throughout all of that has been, that my intention is primarily to focus on stories of Afro prosperity, rising up my black brothers and sisters.
What's up, guys? So as you heard me talk about, I am 9 weeks out from Junior World Championships, and this is one of the most important competitions of my life. So if I want to perform to my max capabilities, I know that I need to make sure that I'm on top of my food and making sure that I'm eating the right things and tracking them. And so for that, I'm using Cal AI, and you guys might have heard about them, but today I'm here to tell you everything that you need to know. So Cal AI is an AI calorie tracker, and it gives you everything that you've probably used in any other calorie trackers, plus the most amazing feature, which is that you can track your food literally with the snap of a picture. So not only can this cut down on time, because for someone like myself, I'm juggling 100 different things, sometimes I'm really busy, it also allows you to go out to a restaurant and snap a picture of your food and have a much better idea of what you're actually eating compared to other calorie tracking apps that wouldn't have a clue. And again, it would do a perfectly good job of scanning this protein shake right here, but if I wanted to go and scan the barcode for any particular reason, I go in there, scan the barcode, and there it is. So if you guys are interested in using Cal AI, then make sure you go down in the description and use my link. You can alternatively go into the App Store or Google Play and download it. And make sure that you use my promo code NATEYT for a 3-day free trial. How this came about was Saturday, we linked up and we were in the car driving and TJ was asking me questions, and I thought about the conversation that we had when we got home, and it occurred to me that what I wanted to get across to the viewers was exactly what I was talking about to him and came about through the questions that he was asking me. And so what you guys don't know is this is like the 5th time that I've filmed this video trying to explain me starting this brand to you. And I think what was missing was the aspect of an organic conversation that reveals things that you can't necessarily do by yourself,
I'll be real, the conversation was a beautiful one, and I was really interested. I was kind of hitting you with the 20 questions about life in general, but specifically centered around the brand, because I recognize, even from having not seen you, but having just been privy privy to what you've been putting out online and the way you've been pushing this, you know, that this is a venture that means a lot to you, you know what I'm saying? And I think there's a lot of preconceptions that oftentimes are placed upon influencers or online personalities who are known for excellence in one field, which is certainly the case for you. And a lot of times there is scrutiny or kind of apprehension when they step into another lane or field, and oftentimes you get some numbers online, and all of a sudden, man are dropping either records, man are dropping mixtape, or man are dropping t-shirts.
Yeah, it's
one
either
of the two.
one, man.
And so it's easy, and I would understand, to be quite honest, if you guys' first assumption was that is the path, or that is
like a money grab
the
thing
situation. So I think when we're talking about it, I've realized, damn, like bro's heart is all the way in this. Damn, this is something that you're building for longevity, both in terms of all the way in terms of the integrity of the product production, the thought that you're putting into the way that you want it to enter the space in terms of the activation, the function, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, and just the general framing of this. It's your namesake as well. You know what I'm saying? This isn't no BS thing. This is when you're putting your name on something, you know what I'm saying?
But then also with that, what another thing that I wanted to get across is that, like, this ain't merch. Like, there's a big difference, and you'll know the difference between like merch and a brand. Merch is like deeply tied to oneself, and kind of you can kind of box yourself in to not be able to go beyond that, because merch kind of only travels as far as you travel. However, with a brand, I mean, I've been fortunate in my work in the fitness industry to work with some of the top brands, and always the brand itself is way bigger than the owner. Some of these brands, people don't even know who the owner is, and the owner could be a low-key brother who people don't even know, but he's built something that's gone far and above himself, and that's more the angle that I want to go down, rather than just trying to cash in on my views. And I mean, like, if you look at the context of what year we're in and what's going on right now, if I wanted just a quick cash grab, I would be doing a course.
Yeah, there's some other means. There's a
lot of other means in today's day and age that would be like very little upfront capital, very little actual headspace, because
time
investment and just research that would be like, straight money. But where it's come down to me actually wanting to do a brand and not do one within my particular niche, branch out of that, there are some deeply personal reasons for that I want these guys to kind of know. So yeah, man, that's kind of why we're here today, and I'm gassed for it.
100%, bro. We'll get like straight into it, and I think that the crazy thing about it, and what I found the other day when we were talking, is that the origin of this whole thing and your interest in fashion fundamentally, and your creative kind of thought process as a whole when it comes to this space really originated from around the time that we first linked up, which was 2020 pre-COVID, 5 years ago now, which is crazy to think.
Crazy, man.
At a time where the stakes weren't quite as high as they are now, you know what I'm saying? Things were different. But if you can just speak a little bit about that time and maybe even how that link up and the circumstances we did link up were significant insofar as your finding of interest in fashion, and how that has progressed since then to get to the point where you're wanting to put something like this out into the world. Yeah,
so just to touch on that kind of how we met. So we met through a mutual friend of ours, Luke. Shout out to Luke, man.
Family.
Luke has been a big part of my entire journey. Within my early YouTube career, my early followers who've been watching me since the beginning will have seen Luke from videos where I did in the beginning, and he actually played a fundamental role in going through here. So how we met was Luke was a friend of mine, and as we both started to come up within our respective industries, we'll make it a point to bring each other through to whatever we were doing. So I used to bring him through to stuff that I was doing, and he brought me through. So one of the first things he brought me to was a shoot that you were doing, and that's when I met you for the first time. And this was probably my first exposure to the fashion industry and the scale of what's going on within there, and just also the differences between that and fitness, because apparel is apparel, but the ways in which that you kind of get that message across varies between industries, like I'm very seasoned in the fitness apparel world, but as far as like fashion, it's completely different, and the main thing with that is like telling a story, and I think that's where you shine as well, because your whole thing is about telling stories, and why I wanted you here today is that in order for people to understand what it is that I'm trying to do, I feel like there's a lot of deeper things that I kind of need to explain for it to kind of make sense. But I feel like when we met, at that time, I wasn't hugely in my fashion bag, but probably not long after that, and then particularly into the next year and going forward, is when I started to not just view fashion as like a necessity thing, but as a more of a self-expression thing, and actually try and find myself within that outside of the gym. And my viewers will know that because I've always been posting stuff like that since probably like 2021. I mean, even after that, like it would be a thing on once I started making money. When you're from South London, man, or just London in general. Sometimes you can make the mistakes of like splashing out a bit too much on the designer thing.
I mean, one man's mistakes, another man's.
Yeah, I mean, bro's got the Prada shorts on today and that, but like, bro, like, so that was me in it. So my lane of fashion was kind of the straight, I'm making money, it's a designer thing. And I mean, I was on like this drip page with Postman, and like that was my thing. So even though I was a fitness man, that was also my bag, which my followers will kind of know. If you go back to my early videos, it might be a Balmain thing, it might be a Dior thing. That was what I was on. So from there alone, you can tell that, okay, within some capacity, fashion is something that you are interested. You don't spend £500 on a t-shirt unless this is something that you're somewhat interested in, whether or not it's for a vain reason, a selfish reason. Wrong or right reasons, right? You're still putting thought into what you're putting on and what that says about you when you do that.
Wearing it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's always been me, but I feel like it's kind of been a thing where I've kind of been categorized within the fitness influencer role, and that hasn't like fully encapsulated all of me, even as far as wanting to go into the powerlifting, that is more of a niche within fitness. Even though I was already a big fitness creator, that was just something that I was passionate about. So the root of all of this is just me being passionate about something and me kind of unapologetically going into that, whether or not people think it makes sense or not. So that's kind of the origin of that, really.
Yeah, man. I think the thing that I've always kind of observed about you, and that even from a distance, I've always really just fucked with about you. First of all, I think narratively, your story has been one that has been beautiful to follow from a third-party perspective, because you are so candid and I think honest and transparent about the trials and tribulations, both positive and negative. Even if you look at your last video and how honest that was, and how much people appreciated that. I think that seeing somebody whose output and performance is of such a high level, a historically high level, as you've attained in the last 12 months, and still being able to sit in front of a camera or share, an unapologetic account of the ups and the highs and lows of that reality, I think it says a lot about your character. And I think that is also embodied in your pursuit of whatever feels right. You're gonna go do it. When people said, this guy's the IG lifter,
influencer.
We went and showed them what I lifted. And that might not have even been from a financial standpoint the most fruitful route.
It's not.
Certainly from a time perspective, the amount you're putting in, the strain you're putting on your body.
Exactly.
And that was something you didn't want to only prove to yourself, but you wanted to prove to the people them as well what was possible. And I think now, in the same way, not being confined by whatever influencer type, I think that's totally a total out-of-pocket term to use for you. I think it's much deeper than that. But even if we want to use that word for lack of a better one, I think now breaking out of that mold and out of the mold of a merchandise-led influencer and going, cool, I'm actually going to put time, effort, funds, consideration and energy into this label that I would like to outlive and outlive, and act as your legacy in many ways. I think is a very special thing, and I'd like to kind of delve into that, because we've got the title, and you say it's not merch, it's not about you explicitly, and I think that much is clear. But Saya says, so how did we get there in terms of that name? What's the significance to it? If you could just tell the people them.
Yeah, so the name Saya came to me as... So obviously we're starting a brand. The easiest way in which the influencer will start a brand is like putting your name on it, right? But Messiah almost felt too much, because although that is my last name, there's almost like religious connotations with that. Like as far as like when I play NBA 2K, it won't let me use my actual surname because it thinks it's on a Jesus thing. Yeah, it thinks it's on a blasphemy thing. So people that might not fully know me might see that name and be kind of misled by it, right? So obviously, cool, an abbreviation came from that, which was just Sire, which is not as like religiously charged or whatever. I think that probably first came to me in maybe like November or so last year.
Also, not as blatantly tied to your name as well. Which
also, I've never been known as Sire. That's another thing. Like, it's not a nickname or anything like that I've been previously known by. It's actually something that I've almost like given to myself. Right? So that kind of came in November. I remember the first kind of conversation I had about that was with Luke, driving down from Nottingham. And then in terms of the Sire Says So, the full name that it is now, I actually can't put a date on when that actually came, but what I do know is that my reasons for having that was kind of deeper, and what it is mainly is it's an incorporation of the American dream as a individual from the UK, and what that kind of means is that when you're from someone that's from the UK and then you start to travel, you start to meet people from other places, you realize that the differences beyond a physical level or a language level or an accent level, the differences between the way that people think. And the number one thing that you realize when you meet people from America is that there's a large difference as far as the amount of self-confidence and assurance that people talk about themselves primarily. And I think that all stems from a societal kind of view of life, which is, in America you have the American dream, which is an idea that anybody who's anyone can work hard enough and create something and achieve greatness or whatever, thing that they're striving for. Whereas, not to say that we don't have that at all in the UK, but we have a much more deep-rooted sense of classism and a much more deep-rooted sense of categorizing oneself. I'm a more lower class individual, I'm a more upper class individual.
Hyper realism, like
exactly, like less of a mindset that is geared towards breaking boundaries, because that's just more embedded into our society. And the number one thing that comes from that is the kind of way in which we look at ourselves, but also look at other people. Like, when I feel like it's a big thing a lot of people talk about in the UK, when somebody starts doing well, people kind of bringing them down or thinking that this person is getting too uppity for themselves. And that's a big thing that people think kind of holds a lot of people back within a lot of creative endeavors, because of the way that people view them. Even a lot of times within the music industry or things like that, like within rap, let's say, there's an inherent sense of like bravado or like cocky brashness, arrogance that is embedded within the rap scene, but that's something that is more acceptable within America and less so within the UK, especially for a young guy, especially for like a young black guy.
For sure.
So the name Sire Says So, it's a statement of oneself that can be applied to anyone. It's like, Sire Says So is like me saying, I can do whatever it is that I want to do and put my mind to for no other reason than just because I said so. And it's something that anybody else viewing it, TJ said so, whoever says so, like, it's a thing where you can put yourself in that within that name, and it's like you can have that almost cockiness, or no, in fact, I'm going to take that back. You need that certain level of cockiness or self-confidence in order to achieve whatever it is you're doing, and it's only after you achieve what it is you're doing that becomes acceptable to a lot of people. And it's like the thing with music where it's like some man can't smell a hit, in the sense that like prior to when a song is lit, a lot of man might not like a song. You said you did a video with you did a collaboration with Andre 3000. I remember him talking about his biggest song, right, Hey Ya, right, him playing that to his boy, and his boy saying to him that if you release this, it's going to be the end of you, right? So in that situation, his boy couldn't smell a hit. Sometimes man can't smell a hit until it's something that's actually big, right?
For sure.
But that's something that you need within yourself in order to do whatever it is that you want to do. So Sire Says So, that is what that is, It's a personal statement of myself that applies to anyone else. And it's like, you can do whatever it is you want to do for no other reason, like no proof of concept other than just because you said so. So that is what that means to me, man.
And I think that this is the first time that you've really fully explained it to me. And I think it just embodies everything that you have really stood for at every step. And I think the reality for that people need to understand, and that I would advise, because it's something that I live by in a lot of ways as well, is that there are a lot of issues with the way that our industries are constructed, with the powers that be in place, and oftentimes the ignorance of the common consumers who, as you say, can't smell a hit, or at no real fault of their own, to be quite honest, are just not aware of the bounds of possibility, because they are governed by a rationale and a see it to believe it type of approach. That's what we're taught. And so rather than having disdain for that fact, you have to find within yourself the powers to overcome it and prove.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says about, I don't have to prove, you do, to get to where you want to be. There are resources that you want to access, there are people that you want to work with, etc. And so you've got to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And even if that's from a place of such a bold, naive sense of self-confidence, if that's what's going to rise it out of you, that is what greatness is made of. No great thing has ever come from, or has come without a sense of that almost unjustifiable sense of
like
self.
no
I've
proof
never
of
seen
concept,
someone
like,
do this before. The maths isn't maths in, but like, I'm just gonna
do it, bro. I just doing it because I said
I say so.
That's it.
Man, with it.
Even with powerlifting, right? Obviously, that's been my main thing that has obviously taken me to the next level in the last year, 2 years. Even my reason for starting that was not from myself. It was a desire to prove people wrong, because I met my friend Joey for the first time, and he told me that kind of people in powerlifting didn't almost take me that serious and stuff like that. And that was the genesis of me wanting to actually take powerlifting seriously and prove it to other people. Because one thing that you find with a lot of successful people, like if people like, say, for example, watch The Last Dance, right, Michael Jordan or whatever, one thing that you find is that a lot of things which are negative within loads of other contexts, right, are the very thing that's necessary for a hyper successful person to be successful. So if you look at like Michael Jordan, his thing was he had an incessant need to beat people, to win at everything, whether this was basketball, whether this was a coin game with his security guys, whatever it was, gambling, he needed to win. Everything he needed to win, right? And in a lot of contexts, this would be a negative thing. I don't imagine that this was probably the easiest thing within his interpersonal life, right?
And his teammates.
Probably people would have found that difficult, but that's something that was necessary for him to have in order to get to where he's got to. And not putting myself on that level, but just anything that I have achieved within my life has partially come from a standpoint of having that almost need and desire to prove things, not just to myself, but to other people. And as you said, it's not just a thing where that's something that is kind of unnecessary and it's, just comes from a place of ego. That is needed in order to get to whatever level that you've got to. Like, you can't become a big influential individual without people thinking you as such, but then in order for them to think that, you kind of need to think it first. It's kind of like a chicken and egg type thing, but also chicken and egg because like scientifically we know what the answer to that was. The egg came first, right? So like the answer is that you need to believe it prior to other people believing it in order to become successful in whatever avenue that is, and that is what Successful is about.
Yeah, so I think one thing when it comes to the brand thing and what I'm interested in with you is, I'm sure you, as we all do, recognize kind of how heavily saturated the space has become, and with all different types of narratives, all different types of people who have something to say or have very little to say, and it's oftentimes one or the other, and find a way to make product out of it and put it out there onto the marketplace. So we've never been in a position where there's more reference points, but also more competitors. So I know that is something that would have gone through your mind when you're making this. And so what is the niche? What is the reasoning, for example, for you taking a slightly more streetwear-led path rather than maybe, which is outside of your comfort zone, as opposed to maybe gym wear or apparel in line with some of the brands that you've worked with in the past?
No.
Like, what puzzle piece does Sire Says So fill? And what was the motivation in your mind, or the gap that you saw that made this make sense and made this feel like such a priority for you?
So with that, I think the main place that this comes from has to be me as an individual, right? Like you can't really do anything with truth and it not feeling like a facade or even appearing as a facade to other people unless it embodies who you are as a person. So even in my own thoughts about it and my conversations with Luke about where the brand is going to go, the number one thing that we're trying to hash out is like, where do you see yourself and how does that tie into the industry? So if I look at myself, right, and we look at the general kind of UK streetwear kind of fashion scene, right, there's lots of different avenues, lots of different brands, a big one obviously like Trapstar, for example, and the stuff that they kind of embody is that know, 3 guys from the hood, 3 OGs that are doing their thing, and that's kind of the lane that they're down, and the people that kind of mess with that, that's kind of the image that's around. But I know that I can't do that thing because people know that's not the type of individual that I am. You've got a lot of other brands where there's a very heavy element of like recreational drug use, or just as you said, just more on the scatty thing. And that again is not me, and people know that's not me, so that's not another lane I can go down. So really what it comes down to, what am I? Who am I? And I think what that is just a kid from South London, a normal kid, a civilian type kid who was never into the mashing work type of thing, never into that, but was very, very much focused on making the best out of my life and trying to get to the point where, you know, well, kind of where I'm at now, and obviously where I'm at now is not all the way where I want to be, but from where I started and from like an average kid from South London, I'm proud of, you know, where I've got to.
It would have been inconceivable back then.
Exactly. And then even like, for example, I remember this quote from Meek Mill. It was like, "Rich is gangster." Yeah, have you heard that one before?
I wouldn't be quoting Meek Mill these times, but
no, yeah, I know. I didn't hear that one.
No, but there's definitely bars there.
There's definitely bars there, but I like, it was in a video he was ranting off, and the main point of it was that Rich is gangster, but in the sense of like, you know, what actually is gangster is like buying your mum a crib, you know, doing stuff like that. Like that is gangster. And I feel like with myself, it's just a reality that the more you start to come up, like realistically, the more money you start to make, etc., the more respect you garner from just people in general, to where like, on Saturday, I pulled up to the Trap Star thing, and you know, I'm in my Porsche, man, instantly, you know, giving you looks off of that.
Of course.
Or you go to another place and you're doing your thing, and that is where that's come from. But where that's come from is not me mashing work, it's not me doing all these things. It's been me hustling on what I'm about, and then getting to the point where you're garnering that respect from other people. And I feel like that's a more realistic avenue, that the majority of kids, if they're honest with yourself, that is you. You're not out here in the streets, you're working on what you're working on, and you aspire to get to the point where you then can garner that respect from other people. So really, it's kind of just an aspirational thing. It's an aspirational kind of brand of like the lifestyle that an average kid, if they hustled in whatever avenue that is, they want to get to, you know? So that's where it kind of ties into more of the streetwear, but more so on the luxury side of things. Like, I'm not coming into this saying I'm going to be a designer brand, because I think that's a little bit egotistical in the sense of, I feel like that's a name that is bestowed upon you.
Yeah,
like,
you earn that. You earn that,
like,
sure.
you know what I'm saying, through your price point and through your quality and through the type of people.
The world building.
Yeah, exactly. But that is the lane I kind of want to go down, because that's what I feel like resonates with me and will resonate with the people who kind of mess with me, you know, because the reality is that like the stuff that I've kind of come up on is not really like glamorous. Like the fitness scene isn't seen as a glamorous scene, right? But I know that the fitness scene probably per capita makes the most money, I would say, out of a lot of scenes, you know, because you've got your free bread and butters, right, which is, you know, your clothing, your supplements, and your training, right? Any fitness influencer from 10k followers up to whatever how many can make a very, very good living off of those 3 aspects right there. And so they can get to the point now where they're doing their thing, right, but they're not doing their thing coming from, you know, the stereotypical things that are lit, right, but they've got to that point now, and like, Rich is gangster, bro. That's the mentality kind of with it, where it's like, you ain't got to do some of this crazy stuff in order to make it. As long as you get to that point and you can actually do those things, provide for the people around you, live a lifestyle that you aspire to.
Yeah, that's wavy.
Gangster.
That's what's wavy.
That's kind of where that is. So that's my kind of goal with it. And as far as why that's more in a streetwear thing than a gym thing, I feel like that's more easily conveyed through, you know, streetwear apparel and lifestyle apparel, because that's where you're gonna try and show that stuff. Like, no one's, you know, people used to laugh at me because I used to, not laugh, but like, oh, this is crazy. I used to rock in the gym in like B22s, yeah, but that's not a thing. That's not really a thing. Like, man don't really do that. If you're gonna want to show, you know, where you are now, or just like, you know, put some on, that's gonna be outside the gym. You know, that's gonna be what you rock up to the function in. That's what you rock up to the baby shower in. You know, that's what you're putting.
You rock up to work in.
That's what I'm saying. That's what you're putting on. So that kind of makes sense as to why I'm doing that. And also, you know, sometimes I think people can look at things in maybe a little bit of a closed-minded avenue. Like, cool, most of my followers follow me for some more of the gym stuff. Why don't you sell gym clothing? Well, my follower that follows me for the gym, they go into the gym and then they leave the gym and then they go to work. They go to a function. They go to a baby shower, a wedding or whatever, and they got to put clothes on for that. Like, everyone is a person. Everyone has a life.
Right.
So if I could connect to these men on a gym thing, but then they see me outside of that and they can resonate with some of the more fashion choices that I'm making, which I do know, then that's something that I wanna go down, and that stimulates me more creatively, I would say, than gym apparel, because I know that game kind of in and out.
More scope. There's much more
scope. There's much more, I would say, create. Like, for example, there's a big thing within the fit. Well, this is in all industries really, which is like people copying each other's stuff, right? Yeah. Obviously, you have the big one, you know, a couple of years ago, the Cortez and Manier Devoir one, right?
Of course.
But in the fitness industry, this is big as well. Like, this brand might say, you copied our tank top, or you copied our compression shirt, or whatever. But the reality of it is, there's only so many ways to skin a cat, and there's only so many ways that you can reinvent the wheel. And for me, fashion is not really about reinventing the wheel. It's more so because, like, the more that I've gotten into it, the more that I've realized, you know, some of the scrutiny on some of the more favorable brands, because every brand that is big will have its haters, right? Mm-hmm. And so for Cortez, for example, a big one that I've heard from a lot of people is, you know, the designs are boring. It's not that it's not that out there or whatever. But the reality is that the reason why Cortez is big is not because they are the most original, or they're doing stuff that, say, no one's ever seen before. It's because they've built a brand that people resonate with, and people, you know, buy into this world that they have created. They've built a world that people want to live in. Yeah. And that's why people wear the clothes. When you wear the clothes, it says something. That's the whole thing about fashion. It's the fact that the clothes that you're putting out says something. They have significance. So the more important point is not, you know, is this a piece of clothing that I have never seen before? It's, you know, what does this piece of clothing say about you? Yeah. So that's really what I've been focusing on, and really what I'm trying to hash out and really, you know, get to the viewers as well, is what I'm kind of about and what all the clothing, you know, is about. So yeah, and I think that's much as reflected also just in how meticulous I know you've been across the sampling process. I know this will be something that you're new to as well. Yeah. And I'd love for you, in a sec, to also just speak on the process that you're going through. Well, like, this t-shirt that you see is the third batch of t-shirts. Like, I have the first batch that came and I weren't fully happy with. I've got a box over there of t-shirts that I was going to print on and I weren't happy with. And then I got to these ones. This was a minute, and I mean, it's not minute, because to me it's not minute. You know, how the t-shirt looks, how the t-shirt feels is not minute. But to someone else, they might say, oh, this is a t-shirt with the print on it. But realistically, the print is what the t-shirt is. Like, this whole first collection, you know, that I'm putting out, I'm not telling anyone that this first collection is something that they would have never seen before, but that's not the point. The point of it is that this is kind of like a you were here first type of thing. Like, we got, say for this t-shirt, right, we have graphic tees in the bank, you know, while we have stuff that we worked on, but it's like, this is the beginning. When you look at this t-shirt, there's not going to be any question of who is that, what brand it is. It's on the t-shirt. It's the essentials. It's there. So this first collection is all about, like, I was here first, and that ties into, you know, the decisions I've made as far as the release of it, why it's going to be at the pop-up at the party instead of just a straight online thing, because I want people to be able to say, I was here first and this is what I'm rocking, you know? Yeah, and you're kind of buying into the full 360 experience of, you know, in an immersive sense. I think that's 100. An art that's also been lost because of online commerce. It's so easy just to scroll and give a brand, you know, TikTok, you garner, you know, 30 seconds of someone's time, and that equates to a sale, and that's great, but is that going to equate to future sales and an actual feeling of connectivity to the brand? And I think that is a beautiful thing, not only insofar as how calculated and considered you're being when it comes to the details on the product, insofar as how far is the shoulder dropping, is the XL fitting an XL? You're a big guy, you know what I'm saying? Is it actually, like, I can even say to you, like, I can be 100% real with you, like, the sample that I got for the tracksuit, I love, but I have huge legs, right? So this large, when I can't wait for my bolt to get here, because I know I'm gonna be wearing XLs in these, right? Yeah. So, like, I can say that, like, this would fit how it would fit for a normal, like, large guy, but for someone like myself, this isn't exactly how I want it to fit. But if you're a regular, you know, fairly large guy wearing it, it's gonna fit exactly how you want it to fit. So even things like that, I'm like, okay, cool, that's gonna work out, but I need to make sure that, you know, this is in the right place and whatever. And what you said actually ties into the music thing as well, because as far as, you know, garnering someone's, you know, interest 30 seconds and that turning into a sale, is kind of a similar thing that I found with the music thing, because obviously, so we can get to it now. What I've decided to do for the release of the brand is just, again, build that world and make a 360 package of, you know, what Size Says So is about. So the way that we're going to do that is we have our event on Friday the 4th of July. If any of you watching, tickets are still live. Click the first link, all right? Grab your tickets. I
got mine.
That's really, we're going to be there, man. We're going to be there. But that's really going to be an opportunity for people to see kind of what the brand is about, but also the scope that I feel like I've been able to get to like right off rip, right? Because obviously the number one thing that kind of comes in when you start a brand as an influencer is that yes, you have that existing audience who might buy from you originally, but the other thing that it means is that you're starting the brand with some level of capital, or some level of money. And so how am I going to use that? Well, the way that I've used that is to book the sickest venue I could possibly ever book. You know, when you guys come, you're going to see this, and to book whichever artist it is I want to book, because this is something that I want myself to experience first and foremost, because this is something that I just wanted to do, and also the people, you know, who are with the brand to also experience, because this isn't going to be something that you could experience from really any other brand at their genesis, because you know you ain't going to have that money to book that artist, but because I do, I'm going to do that. And so that's kind of where the thinking comes from, that is, and that, you know, obviously there's another thing with brands where it's like people always like putting the London London word at the end of their brand to see it on the front. Not London. This guy could be from Kent. This guy could be from Manchester. But they put something. It could be like a TJ London in there. But man's actually really from London, bro. I'm doing the event in London, in the centre by Waterloo, and I want people to come down and just be a part of it. So that's what that is. Obviously, if you guys are there and around in that sort of area, or if you're in different places in the UK, man, book that train, please come down, support. Again, tickets are down there below. And that's really just gonna be the start of it. I just set it off on the note that I know it's going to continue on, you know? So that's really what that is, yeah.
Exponential growth, and you're starting with a bang, and I can say that it's a very exciting thing. Also, just insofar as the leap of faith that you're taking, you know what I'm saying?
There's been a lot of peas, man. I was trying to tease you on Saturday about the fact that last month was the most down I think I've ever been in my life. Like, I spent so much money on this brand, and not even just on the brand, because obviously, you know, there's the whole like pre-made versus pre-order method, you know, whatever guys do. Obviously, I went the pre-made route, but that's not even what I spent most of the money on. Most of the money was on the event, the artist, getting this book, getting this all locked in, because like, I really believe in what I'm doing, and I want people to understand that, and also understand, you know, what I've put into this, you know?
And so you were speaking earlier, bro, about just the sampling process and sizing and the type of pieces that you're working towards. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be on the close friend story, which I thought was really cool, that you kind of opened that up to the people them as well, or anyone who's interested. And I would suggest that you
lock in,
tap into that. I mean, hey, you do what you want to do. All I know is I know what's coming on the basis of being on there, and so I've seen some dope samples. Serious, man. I've seen some dope silhouettes, you know, progressions, heavy progressions from your early offerings, which I think is so important. But one thing I did want to ask about is, with these trackies specifically, what we see on the trackies, what we see next to the spell out on the tee, is this logo.
Yeah, man.
And I know there's been a couple of people saying whatever about the logo, so let them know where that's come from and what it represents to you. What we
So I feel like one of the largest holdups for a brand is obviously in the beginning, which is, what is the name, what does the logo look like? That could take, man, a year, 2 years to hash out.
And the rest.
So I kind of stumbled upon the logo just of like self-identity, man. So the logo comes from the Barbados flag, which has a trident within it, and my dad is born in Barbados, and Barbados is such an integral part of myself. And you know, we lock in there like every so often, every couple of years, man. I was there just in December for Christmas, and that's a very big part of my identity. You know, first of all, you know, being from any of the Caribbean islands is its own identity, but being from Barbados in particular, we're one of the smaller islands, and we don't like to say that, but it's a smaller island, population like less than 300,000. So obviously there's not tons of you, and people might not know much of the country outside of Rihanna and rum and Cropover. That's pretty much your lot, really.
That is the big three.
That's the big three, really.
Yeah, that's the big three.
So yeah, like that identity is really important to me, and getting that across. So yeah, the elements from the trident, and then just myself, my name obviously Messiah is it's a Hebrew name, kind of almost via Barbados. You go to Barbados, There's actually a Messiah Road or Messiah Street or whatever.
Okay,
It's a name. Like there's even this rock. Funny story. There's this big like amount of like rocks in Barbados that have loads of like different Bajan names on it, and they got my name Messiah on it. And underneath my name is my girlfriend's father's name.
Word.
Directly underneath, next to each other. My dad actually showed me that. That's some crazy universe stuff right there. But either way, Barbados is an extremely integral part of myself, so that's where that comes from. And then it's not a trident, it's an M. And my surname being Messiah. So that's literally what that is. But there were some misconceptions and some people thinking that I took the Maserati logo and turned it upside down. That is not what that was whatsoever. Like, I don't even, like, I've never owned a Maserati car in my life. I'm not a Maserati fan. I don't know why that would be a logo that I would just decide to repurpose, but no, it is not that, man. Obviously, when you get into like this kind of stuff, there's gonna be crossovers. You're gonna come up with something and realize that somebody somewhere really far away came up with a similar thing, but literally, man, the logo is me. That's why I get really annoyed when people say that kind of stuff, because it's like, bro, like this logo is deeply personal to me, and it's not something that could have stumbled on by just trying to copy a next man's thing.
For sure, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's really that, and it's really important to me as well. Because like I have it front and central on some of the garments, like the tracksuit, the top is big in the center of it, and I feel like a cleaner, more simple logo is more, it travels further. You know, a lot of people again can get into like more the crazy logo type of stuff, and everyone can do their own thing as far as the logo. But
heavy
that's
stuff,
what I'm saying. Yeah, but like I think just a clean, simple logo that people can see and automatically know what it is and what that stands for. That's kind of what I'm trying to get to, and so I hope that people eventually associate this with Sire Says So and what everything that's about.
I think it's essential, and I think that, you know, we're in a culture right now, because of how much media we're all taking in and how many different ideas and different, you know, visual concepts and just techniques that we observe now, how much media we observe. You know, people are always trying to join dots in between. Hey, he took that from this guy, and like,
you might never even heard this guy of your life.
And the bottom line is even if you have, you know, we are implicitly inspired and influenced by everything that we see. That's
100%.
Who we are as beings, and there is no such thing as an entirely original idea. You know, all we can do, the best we can do, and the best creators and the best visionaries, they are creating fresh amalgamations of pre-existing ideas and putting it through the lens of a narrative that it has never been contextualized with before. So that's you taking, you know, it's an M. Yeah, it might be so simply defined as the Barbados Trident, but who has put those two things together and given them the personal significance of it being your initial, and the broader heritage-based significance that's personal to you? There's no other comparison for that, you know. And I think people oftentimes get too concerned with that looks like that, and everything looks like everything.
Looks like everything, bro. It's gonna be. I mean, funny enough. So when I announced Sire Says So, and I was in Dubai, and the next day I went to Atlantis. It's this hotel in Dubai, and they got a water park, and the logo of the Atlantis water park is a trident that looks very similar to the Maserati one. Right. So it was so funny that I saw that straight after people have been saying that, because I'm like, bro, if you're looking at me, bro, go look at Atlantis, bro. But then Atlantis. With their thing, they didn't copy Maserati. They did it because it's a trident and it's a water park, and water trident, you know, it's just like Poseidon. Like, there's gonna be crossovers in things, but that just really annoys me when guys do that. But you're gonna get that, man. I'm gonna have to get used to that kind of stuff.
And I think the great thing about it is this is we're talking about the brand at inception and the skepticism that comes with that. I think what you have is also just an early point in the grand scheme of things in your career, is like the opportunity to really build this world over time and nurture it over a number of years. And I think, you know, I'd really be interested to know where you kind of see this brand living or existing and looking like in, let's say, 5 years time. I think it's a long way away, and maybe you've had some thoughts about that, but like, what place do you think you hope the brand can hold, and do you feel that it might do, you know, after that sort of stretch of time in the future?
Yeah, well, I think I've kind of got like two main options, and I think I'm just gonna have to see and figure out like how kind of life goes and where I kind of see that going based on, you know, what's actually happening with the brand over time. But I think that there's either the option of making it an all-encompassing brand, where I then do start to incorporate some of the more gym elements and just make it more so of an everything brand, like more similar to kind of how Young LA is right now. Like Young LA is known as a gym brand, but a lot of the items that we get now are like the
Everyday
more fashion, everyday wear. So there's that option, or there's the option of doubling down, going straight heavy on the, you know, streetwear, but transitioning into that more sort of premium kind of feel, where the exclusivity is kind of there, but then also the exclusivity is kind of garnered by the price point, and where that's at as far as justifying that. So that's kind of the direction that I want to lead it towards, but also just kind of be a thing. Like I use an example. When I was younger, and you know, before you're making money, you know, when you're just a kid, and I remember seeing like the guys that were making money, and like at that time it was like Lubes. You remember Lubes, yeah? When man at that
Never
time,
had myself a pair.
neither did I. Neither did I.
Say.
But
nor Giuseppe's. What neither of those two.
Yeah.
Nor Balenciaga Arenas. That's the big three. You couldn't caught me in any of them.
No, but
South side of the river, it was peak.
Yeah, no. But when let's say 2017, 2018, when a man is making money from London or whatever, that's what man are wearing. You know what I'm saying?
Literally.
So the point about that is, I want Sight Says So to be an aspirational brand, to where like a kid, you know, coming up and he's, you know, trying to start to make it. Once he starts kind of making it, that's the first thing he wants to buy.
Right.
You know, same way when for me, that was like. I remember it was like, I think it was like Balmain, or just like the first big thing was like a Canada Goose coat. That was one of the first main purchases that I had, because you see people and like people making, well, even people not making money. But it seems like everyone's got a goose now. But the thought is like, okay, once I'm making money, I'm gonna get myself a Canada Goose coat.
Right.
That's kind of the thought process, because it's an aspirational thing, you know. It's a thing that kind of says something. That was me with the same with my LV bag. That was like, once I start making money, I can get that. You know, so that's kind of what I want Sight Says So to transition into. Is like a brand that, you know, kids coming up, they can look at it as like, once I do this, or once I get to that, I'm gonna start rocking this. That's the kind of that's the goal. So we'll see which one of the two kind of makes more sense. But again, it's very hard to say what people like. I can know how I feel about what I make, but then it is a different thing compared to how other people think about what you make. And you'll obviously know this, because on the stuff that you do, you can think that it's the latest thing that you ever created or whatever. But if other people aren't with it, then it's not gonna, you know, travel, and it's not gonna be the thing that you double down on and then continue with. Usually it's gonna be throwing some at the wall, seeing what sticks, and then I'm gonna go with that. It might be the more you know, crossover type of pieces, because for example, like, let's say like the easiest crossover piece would be like a wife beater vest. That would be the easiest crossover piece between lifestyle and gym, because you wear a wife beater vest when you're outside lifestyle, and you wear that in the gym, right? If that becomes like our most popular product, then like, okay, maybe I dabble a bit more into the slidey gym thing while still preserving those aspects. For sure. Or if it becomes a thing where, you know, that sample that you said you saw in my film, I'm not gonna tell people what it is yet. If that becomes a thing where like, yo, I need this, and that becomes our most popular product, then it's like, okay, cool, maybe I double down on that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We'll have to see. So I'm open to a lot of possibilities, but at the same time, gonna make sure that I stay true to myself within all of them. So.
Right, it's essential. I feel it's a big trial and error thing, bro. You know what I'm saying? And you know, the only thing you can be informed by, and you're blessed to be in a position also where the work you have done has allowed you to explore and expand a network of tasteful individuals. I like to think of myself as one of those guys, Luke, the L-Boys, brothers up in knots, and as those type of guys. And like, so you make to cater to your, you've got to make first and foremost to cater to your own taste. But you also then have immediate access to minds and opinions that you value. And you know, we've got to be careful in terms of how many voices we allow, you know, into the mix. But folks who you recognize have your best interest, and also have a taste level and an honesty and a candidness to their opinions as well, that can guide you. that is all you have, certainly to begin with, to enter the space.
Like, bro, I can say with like yourself, bro. Like, so like this might be a problem of mine. Like, I would say that I'm not the hugest person who like comment on people's stuff or like say stuff, but when any of your, you know, big, you know, activations or stuff like that comes up, I make sure I'm on that, bro, because like the level that you're getting to within your particular field is aspirational for me, bro. And it's like seeing somebody that you know doing things at the highest level is probably just the greatest source of either pride or jealousy as a friend, and you got to pick which lane. You got to pick which lane you're gonna go down
or
there.
It kind of falls in.
Yeah, or somewhere in between or whatever. But like I would say like yourself, the other people that around me, and a big one like being my friend Luke, who's kind of brought me into this world, and that's been my main introduction into this world. Have played like hugely integral roles, and I don't know, like I don't think I could have done this 2 years ago, because like you sometimes have the thought, like for example, when I was getting the most views on YouTube, right, might have been like right as I like joined uni or around that time, around that sort of time. And part of you can think like, oh, like what if I did this brand then? But the reality is that I was not in this mindset then. I didn't know the fashion game. I didn't have the mental capacity to do this at that time. Everything about this brand is a result of all the things and all the lessons that I've learned
experiences
across this entire time, and even situations that you go through that make you think, you know what, maybe I kind of want to make sure that I have my own thing, because you know you never know what can happen in life, man. I'm gonna leave that one there, but like that's been a very big thing, like making sure to stay present and not like, oh, maybe I should have done this then and maybe I should have done that there.
For sure.
Everything that I have done over all the years has brought me to like where it is now. So yeah, man.
Well, look, one of the sort of closing notes that I wanna hear from you in maybe a slightly more playful mood is, look, bro, we don't know who's gonna watch this. You know what I'm saying? We spoke about some of my collaborators. If any of them stumble across this video, which we're shooting a shot, who are you trying to see in these garms? Like, you're making these garms, and every time I'm making something, every time I'm coming up with an idea, I'm thinking about the optimal
who, like, most aspirational,
to slap that on, or to be the subject of the shoot or whatever it is. So when you think about even some of the samples you got coming that people haven't seen, the maybe even up the levels, like, who are you wanting to see rocking this stuff? What's the goal in that regard in terms of personnel? Throw some names on the table. All
right, so the sample that you've seen, I think probably if I could, the number one person who I'd probably want to rock that would be like Skepta, for example. I feel like
ain't impossible, dude.
It's not impossible. Hey, listen, you've already worked with my man. You know what I'm saying? That would be the number one person, because Skepta's like rap royalty in the UK, like just on a longevity standpoint,
London through and through,
in a crossover standpoint in terms of fashion and everything. Creatively, like all creative aspects, music, DJ, and anything. Like Skepta's done it all. That would be probably one of the number ones. I would say like a big personal goat of mine in the music game would be like Dave, especially being from like the precise same area, like not just Streatham, but Streatham Vale. Some of the backdrops of some of his videos being like the shop I used to go to when I was younger, or like the end of where I was allowed to go to, like when you're playing out, or where I would go to when I was playing out. I remember it was the Hangman video that was like round the corner from my old house. Like Dave is like a big personal goat of mine, so like he would be a huge person who I would like to see, you know, messing with the brand
outside the UK.
Outside of the UK,
let's go bigger.
Man, that's a difficult one. I think in the US scene, probably more. Bro, it's gonna sound mad corny because obviously you work with people as well. But probably the most tasteful brother in that whole thing would be A$AP Rocky, bro. And I almost don't want to say it because it's just gonna sound like I'm just rattling off the people who you've worked with. But that's probably the realist answer. Like, that is probably the most like tasteful brother in that whole kind of region, in that kind of world. So probably him. And I mean, I hope it's something. Obviously, I feel what I feel myself, and I have all the faith in the world in it. But I really hope that it's something that people can buy in with and just like feel a part of, you know, because like the number one thing is that you want to build a community. You want to have a group of like-minded individuals who feel what you feel, and I really believe that to be the case, man. I really do feel like the more civilian type of brother from London or whatever that was never mashing work or whatever, those kind of individuals I feel like are slightly unrepresented. That's just kind of how I feel within that kind of whole space. And if I can be true to myself within that regard and kind of put an olive branch out for guys who feel the same kind of way, then I feel like we can definitely do big things, man. And that's
well, look, bro, I think that's written. I think that when it comes to the community building side, the first real, inbuilt moment is gonna be on the floor.
Yeah, man, I can't wait, man.
And being a man of the intel that I am, I'm aware of some of the goings on that evening and some of the individuals involved. And I must say, it's not a joke thing.
It's not a joke thing at all, man. So, I've broke the bank multiple times for this, man, but we're making it
worthwhile.
It's gonna be worthwhile, man.
So. Yeah, go cop that. And I'm not saying that on a brethren thing. Like that's some real shit. And bro, like on a level and on a personal one, I appreciate you obviously for having man for this discussion.
No, and I appreciate you doing this.
I genuinely wish you very well on this journey, because I speak to a lot of guys who are not so clued in to really what they're working on, and as I say, we spoke about it earlier, are not driven by emotion and passion in their work, and are much more practical, and that maybe avoid some of the lows because you don't feel quite as the L's don't feel quite as painful or as they do for us, but the upside is just is tenfold, hundredfold,
100%. Like I feel like obviously the brand where that goes, that's one thing, but I just feel like if the 4th of July goes well and just goes the way that I'm gonna envision it, that's gonna be a feeling which I may never get that feeling again, because sometimes the first, there's nothing like the first, bro. You only get one first experience or something in your life. Even like I can think of like, thing like going on holiday or whatever. Like I remember the first few times that I was able to go away like as an adult and do stuff like that. I haven't been able to replicate that feeling. Even once I've been able to do those things on a bigger scale, like go Dubai or do that's what I'm saying. So I really feel like this start is going to be so important to me, and I want to make sure it's the best. And I want to make sure that you guys are a part of it.
I wanted to ask, because I feel like when I'm speaking to a lot of guys who are starting their brands, a lot of them are gearing towards having a very clear kind of consumer demographic to mind, even from the design, from the brand identity, from the world. Others are approaching it in a much more broad sense, in terms of it's for all types of people, and whoever likes what I like will like this. When you're meticulously sampling, going through these rounds, looking at the specific fit, the shape, the designs, is there a specific sort of demographic to mind that you're thinking about? And who would that be? What does that look like? Who should be rocking this stuff?
Well, the number one thing I wanted to do was make garments that make sense both for myself and for the majority of the general public. So the way in which I've gone about that is, for example, like with clothing, you have different types of fits. Like you have like a more skinny fit, tight fit, you have like a regular fit, and then an oversized fit. Out of those three, what would work, say, for like a big gym guy and a regular person would be like an oversized fit, right? Yeah. Because with a gym guy, then you've got enough space for yourself, and then for a regular person, the silhouette of the clothing itself has a certain look to it that they also like. So most of the garments that you're going to see from me right in the immediate future are mainly going to be more on the oversized kind of wave, just so that both sorts of people are being incorporated, and it's not only a thing that's going to look good on a gym guy, like a super mad compression tee or something like that, or only something that's going to look good on a more like regular, shaped human. So that was a big focus of mine. Like even with the t-shirts, like the t-shirts was the biggest one, I would say, where that one was extremely important, because for some people it might just be a t-shirt, but it's not just a t-shirt. You have the silhouette, what you're actually looking for, how you want the piece to sit. Same with the tracksuit as well, and that can come down to materials and all things like that. And this is all things that I had to, learn about, and just want to make sure to get across to people. So it is definitely something that's for everyone, but I have to make sure that I make it with both myself and my main followers in mind. And even in terms of male, female, whatever, my main following is men, but I'm making mainly unisex clothing. Like a girl can rock pretty much any of the of the first stuff that we're putting out. And even again, the sample that we keep alluding to, that's been both men and like women have said that's called, and I know that's something that both men and women would wear. And there's a lot of crossover there. I think the gender kind of stuff. I think that can be down to like even like colors and things like that.
Yeah.
Like with certain garments. Like, but for the most part, there's a lot of unisex stuff. I would say, unless you're making things specifically for women. Most men's things are fairly unisex. That's how you have your girl stealing your jumper. More of the women's stuff is more on the side of where it's like not as much. But I think when you mainly start off with men's clothing, I think you're also mainly making it unisex at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Especially this day and age. So that makes sense. And I think like it's definitely good to be, in any case, curating. Like for you want to be making garms that your girl can wear.
Exactly.
And you know what I'm saying, you want to make a hoodie that your Marge can wear.
Exactly.
Like these are the...
That even came down to sizing. Like when I was looking at manufacturers, some of them only started from a small, but I made sure with the tracksuit to get one that started from an extra small. Because I wanted my girl to rock it. And that was for no other reason really than that. I probably don't have that many followers that are size extra small, but I wanted my girl to rock it.
So the petite girlies, he's
petite girls, I'm thinking of you, man. Mainly my girl in it, not really. Well, anyway.
Y'all are welcome to purchase and stay at a safe social distance from broski, you know what I'm saying? But no, bro, that's super important, and it's good that there's that thought going into that side of things for sure. So yeah, bro, I mean, this has been great. I mean, for me, I'm learning on the back of a conversation where I felt we spoke a lot the other day, you know, about this. Like, this has gone into a new level of depth. So a lot of this stuff is like the kind of first time I'm hearing it, and it's refreshing, man, to be speaking to a guy that, you know, obviously I've got personal love for, but I can also say is approaching something in the right way. And, you know, as a fashion guy, like, I don't really like the idea of everyone getting into fashion, but when it's coming from a place of integrity, you know what I'm saying, it is refreshing. It's great to see. And
that means a lot, man.
You know,
there's not a lot of people's, like, I would say, cosigns that for my personal self would like mean as much as yours, bro. So today, like, even you just doing this today, I feel like it's been able to bring things out of me that I kind of needed to get out, but I wasn't really able to do myself, and I kind of had the man for the job for that. So, bro, I really appreciate that, bro.
Come on, man.
And I definitely feel like now, it's the same thing with Luke. Like, I feel like the routes that we've gone down, I feel like they're now starting to converge. So if we can in the future maybe do more things where like our paths are like converging, bro, that's always a W, man.
This won't be the last y'all see of us. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we're in Paris next week, bro. We're gonna be there, man.
Next week we're there.
It's gonna be serious.
July 4th, you get me. We're there. So it's getting active. It's getting serious. Saya says so. It's something you're gonna be seeing around. You're gonna be seeing the guys in it.
Hopefully you won't be able to miss it, man. You're gonna get tired of me before you.
It's gonna be long.
Yeah,
it's gonna be long. Anybody who's trying to avoid it, it's a long day. But broski, once again, I appreciate you for having, man. It's nice to be on the channel. Appreciate you guys for watching and putting up with the verbal, but it's always, you know.
No, man, I think it was needed, man. It was needed, but just to finish off for the channel, guys, thank you for all the support that you guys have given me over all the years, which has allowed me to be in a position to do this now. And I just really feel like if you're someone that really has messed with me over the last couple of years, then, you know, it's not every day I'm asking for something from you, man, but if you, man, can buy a t-shirt, buy something, just to be a part of the beginning and know that this is something that I'm really passionate about and want you guys to be a part of, then I really appreciate that, man. Obviously, in the future, there will be them online drops, but just for the immediate future, make sure you come down to that event. Link down below. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Peace, man. Love.
Deuces.